Scrum Masters Elite_UK inspiring rugby insights. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video.
There are matches where the final result is always what fans look forward to most. But there are also matches where, even before the opening whistle, their value goes far beyond winning or losing. The encounter between South Africa and England gives me exactly that feeling. What draws my attention is not only South Africa's #1 ranking or England's less than positive run of form, but also the way both teams enter the match with very different kinds of pressure, expectations, and ambitions. If we only look at the numbers, many would easily lean toward a victory for South Africa. They are ranked #1 in the world, possess a powerful, deep squad, and are led by an experienced coaching staff. Meanwhile, England have just gone through a less successful period with several consecutive defeats. However, elite sport constantly reminds us that rankings only reflect the past, while matches are decided by what happens on the field in the present moment. What makes me think the most is Victor Matfield's sharing about the feeling of anxiety before the match.
At first glance, this may seem surprising, because a top-ranked team is usually expected to enter a game with greater comfort. But in reality, it is quite the opposite. When a team becomes world #1, the pressure no longer comes from the opponent, but from the expectations of fans, the media, and even the players themselves. Success does not always bring ease. Sometimes, the more successful you are, the heavier the burden becomes. Each subsequent victory is no longer just a win, it becomes an obligation. Every mistake is magnified. Every defeat can trigger doubt. That is why hearing a legend like Matfield admit to feeling anxious makes me realize even more clearly that even the strongest teams must never become complacent. On the other side, England gives me a very different impression. A poor run of results certainly affects the team's confidence. However, if we look deeper, they still show that they are capable of competing with the top teams.
The Six Nations final, where they only lost due to a late penalty, is proof that the gap between success and failure can sometimes be just a very small moment. This makes me believe even more that we should not judge a team solely based on a winning or losing streak. In sport as in life, there are periods when effort does not immediately bring desired results, but that does not mean ability has disappeared. What matters most is the ability to get back up, adjust, and keep moving forward. Another point that particularly interests me is the contest in the forward pack. This is not simply a battle of physical strength but also a clash of technique, tactics, coordination, and willpower. When both teams are highly rated in this area, the match becomes not only a duel between outstanding individuals but also a test of each system's overall functioning. I also appreciate Matfield's view of this as a real challenge for South Africa rather than assuming they will dominate. Respecting the opponent is a hallmark of professionalism.
When athletes and experts properly assess the opposition, the match becomes more compelling and gives fans a fairer perspective. In addition, I am very interested in the questions surrounding coach Rassie Erasmus's tactical approach. Will he continue to rely on the experience of veterans, or will he dare to experiment with new ideas? Will South Africa expand their style of play or return to a more power-based, kicking-oriented approach? These questions show that modern rugby is not only about physical competition but also an ongoing battle of wits between coaching staffs. In my view, a strong team is not one that always sticks to the same old style, but one that can adapt to each opponent and situation. Innovation does not mean rejecting tradition. On the contrary, it is a way for tradition to continue evolving and surviving in an increasingly competitive environment. I strongly agree with Sir John Kirwan's view that every sport needs stars. However, I believe the value of a star lies not only in fame but also in the ability to inspire.
A well-known player attracts more fans to the sport, motivates younger generations, and helps increase the appeal of competitions. Of course, fame also comes with great responsibility. Those in the spotlight must balance personality and professionalism so that their image has a positive impact. I also appreciate the way experts analyze Pollock from a technical perspective rather than focusing solely on reputation. The assessment that he may perform better coming off the bench or in more suitable roles shows that rugby always prioritizes team effectiveness over individual fame. That is a very meaningful lesson. I realize that elite sport is not a place for complacency. The strongest team can still feel anxious. A struggling team can still produce surprises. Legends still respect their opponents. Young talents still need time to develop. All of this creates the deeply human beauty of sport. For me personally, the biggest lesson is not to judge everything too quickly based on surface appearances.
Today's success does not guarantee tomorrow's, and today's failure is not the end of the road. What matters is maintaining a learning mindset, preparing thoroughly, and constantly improving oneself. Humility in success and perseverance in failure are both valuable qualities. For fans, I think we should also view sport with a more balanced attitude. Instead of only praising winners or criticizing losers, we should appreciate the effort, dedication, and fighting spirit of athletes. Every match is the result of thousands of hours of training, sacrifice, and determination. A defeat does not erase everything a team has built, just as a victory does not mean all weaknesses have been fixed. Whether in sport, work, or life, people constantly face pressure, expectations, and competition. But it is precisely these challenges that drive us to grow. When we respect opponents, accept differences, continuously innovate, and maintain a forward-looking mindset, we create a healthy competitive environment where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. In the end, I believe the greatest value of this match does not lie in the score after 80 minutes of play, but in the lessons about preparation, courage, respect for opponents, adaptability under pressure, and the constant desire to rise. These values go beyond a single sport and can inspire anyone pursuing the goals. And perhaps, it is these values that represent the most lasting victory sport can offer humanity.
Victory will pass, but values endure forever. Thank you for following Scrum Masters Elite _UK.